My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I want to address this whole Brett Kavanaugh issue. It is amazing how at the last moment, all of a sudden, these accusations about Brett Kavanaugh of things that supposedly took place 36 years ago when he was in high school have come out to try to derail his nomination. And many people on the left are saying, we cannot have such a person with a lifetime commitment on the Supreme Court. I guarantee you, if Brett Kavanaugh were an ardent defender of abortion rights, they would be silent. That is the entire hypocrisy of the left. If Dianne Feinstein knew that Brett Kavanaugh were an ardent supporter of abortion rights, she would have never have come up with this thing. It would have just been fine. Look at what they've done with Ted Kennedy and Christopher Dodd, the two senators from the East Coast that used to make waitress sandwiches. What is a waitress sandwich? Look it up and you'll find out that Chris Dodd and Ted Kennedy, these great senators, great Democratic senators, used to make waitress sandwiches. Oh, that was all just fun and games. That was just boys being boys. They were senators. They weren't high school kids. They were senators. Look at Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, another ardent abortion supporter. Now, Bill Clinton had allegations of rape lodged against him. Of course, that's trailer park trash. It's a vast right-wing conspiracy. Oh, no, everything was consensual. Bill Clinton did nothing wrong. Bill Clinton was an ardent abortion rights supporter. Brett Kavanaugh, they are concerned about. These people with this phony outrage that are trying to derail the Brett Kavanaugh nomination want one thing. They want abortion on demand kept legal. They want everybody to have access to killing unborn children, period. That's the only thing that they are looking for. If Brett Kavanaugh were to come out and say, you know what, even though I'm Catholic is my personal belief, and I'm not going to let it affect my professional judgment as a judge, and I will rule for abortion, they would be happy as could be, and not a word of this stuff would have been brought up. That's the reality behind the scenes. However, the second thing is dealing with false allegations. It is amazing how the left comes up with these allegations of sexual abuse and misconduct. It's been interesting because it was only because of Harvey Weinstein and a few people like that now there's this great outrage. Prior to that, there was no outrage about sexual misconduct. It was almost celebrated. In fact, it was the women who were trashed, not the men, supposedly, who had done these things. Remember the Clarence Thomas hearings. Clarence Thomas, an originalist, wanting to go forward, and they grilled him with Anita Hill, as if Clarence Thomas also were a stalker and a dangerous person. Clarence Thomas called it a high-tech lynching. And by the way, if memory serves me correctly, the lion of the Senate, Senator Ted Kennedy, was also part of those hearings. Regarding false allegations, it is interesting how in this society that an accusation automatically assumes somebody is guilty and should be disqualified from whatever it is they're seeking to do. I've read several articles now that talk about if Brett Kavanaugh did this, if he did that, if he did this, if he did that, he should not be allowed on the Supreme Court. The big question is, did he do it? Nobody cares about that. It's the accusation that really makes the difference. I would like to propose something else because accusations are cost-free. A woman can make an accusation against a man can make an accusation against a woman, whatever it is. The accusation is free to make. It causes the victim of the accusation, especially when it is a false accusation, to pay a price. In this case, Judge Kavanaugh is being grilled in such a way that he should not have to be grilled. But let's take this one step further. Does anybody remember the Duke Lacrosse rape case? One individual accused these three people of raping her, and they were basically kicked out of college. Their lives were destroyed over a false allegation. False allegations? Hey, it doesn't make a difference. That's just part of living in a free society. You might have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend yourself, but that's okay because we want to defend a woman's right to make a false accusation. I have a friend who was involved with a false accusation. He has a daughter. He has not been able to see his daughter now for probably 15 years. What was the weapon of choice of his ex-wife? And by the way, he was very kind to his ex-wife. His ex-wife needed a place to stay, and he even gave her a place to stay. Let her stay at the house with her because she was homeless, and he was doing what he could to help her and his daughter. And what did she do? She rewarded him with a false accusation of sexual misconduct. Another friend who was a teacher friend of mine, same thing, an outstanding man. What did his wife do to him? Because she got upset with him, she rewarded him with a false accusation which got him removed from teaching for a time. The nature of this false accusation was not that he did something with a girl, it was that he did something with his son. This was her false accusation. It was proven to be false. Did she pay? No, she had no punishment, though she did later on end up shooting herself. And by the way, their son also. Another acquaintance of mine, I was at a bank talking with this one lady about this whole idea of false accusations. She told me the story about her brother. Her brother had a false accusation of sexual misconduct against a minor lodged against him. He did not do it. He was innocent. But the district attorney gave him two options. He could either plead to a lesser charge and spend 3 to 4 years in jail, or the district attorney would find him guilty and send him away for 25 years. Here is an innocent man thrown into jail for 3 to 4 years. He had no choice but to plead guilty because the other consequence would have been 25 years in prison due to a false accusation. Perhaps I'm a little bit sensitized to these things because I too have been the victim of false accusations. Several years ago when I was watching my grandchildren and Children's Protective Services got involved, would not defend me, knew that I had nothing to do with the entire incident, threw me under the bus, I got sued by my daughter. And her mother came to her defense and started lodging false accusations. She told the judge that a person like me, my grandchildren, were not safe around. I had been taking care of my 1-year-old and 2-year-old grandchildren for about 8 to 9 months. They were staying at my house sometimes 5 times a week. And my ex-wife, who did not want to take care of the grandchildren, in fact, the oldest grandchild, she wanted my daughter to put him up for adoption. My youngest grandchild at that time, she really didn't have anything to do with him, or very little to do with him. She knew that I was watching both of them, that I was taking care of my grandchildren, and I was doing it for my daughter. And yet, she evidently, for whatever reason, could not stand that. She told a judge that the grandchildren were not safe around me. Anyone who knows and has seen the pictures and the videos know that just the opposite was true. But furthermore, my ex-wife took this one step further. She had the audacity to tell the judge that a person as violent as I am, you never know to what degree he is violent, but once he kills somebody, then it is too late. And yes, I had the transcript with her testimony. I had to defend myself. Now, for me, it only cost me $20,000 to defend myself over this made-up, trumped-up charge and these lies. I tried to take my ex-wife to a justice of the peace, not to get her thrown into jail for perjury, even though she committed perjury. And by the way, she was a Christian lady too. She was a child of missionary parents. In fact, her father was a minister, the minister who married us. And her mother was a godly Christian missionary. And in fact, well, on the one hand, they supported us when we were overseas as missionaries, and I supported them when they were in Mexico as missionaries. However, when I found out they were going to profit off of the divorce that my ex-wife was filing for, that they were all opposed to, they were going to loan my ex-wife $40,000 and she would pay them back with interest. And my former mother-in-law said, "Ooh, this will be very good for our retirement accounts. It will help us out because we know that our daughter will pay us back." And once again, I have all the correspondence for this. I asked them to apologize to my children for their actions, and they refused to do it. So what did they do? After 1 year of begging them to do so, and they refused to do so, knowing exactly that everything that I said was true, I wrote to their church. and their church decided that they did not want to do anything about it. So after another year, I wrote to a number of their missionary supporters, because as a missionary supporter myself, I had the email addresses. My former mother-in-law sent out an email that had all of the addresses in there, and lo and behold, I had a copy of the email. So I explained to everybody what happened, asking them to have their missionary couple, this great missionary couple in Mexico, do the right thing and apologize to my children, their grandchildren, because they destroyed the family because they wanted to make an interest on a $40,000 loan. How terrible that was of me to do such a thing. So how did they reward me? With, you guessed it, false accusations. When I was at court defending myself over something I didn't do, my former mother-in-law provided emails that were just filled with lies. The funny thing is about my former mother-in-law is that when she provided these emails, they were so ludicrous, I think they actually helped me out. Thank you, Yvonne Streifling Lee, for doing that, because I think you helped the judge to decide the whole family, that is you, Yvonne Streifling Lee, and your daughter and everybody else, was absolutely crazy, because she saw all the evidence, heard all the evidence, and declared me innocent of everything, found absolutely no evidence whatsoever of any type of abusive behavior. And that's the way it was. So Yvonne Streifling Lee, missionary to Mexico. And by the way, your husband, Pastor Rich Lee, who married us, another great missionary to Mexico. I want to thank you both, because even though you meant to harm me with false accusation, you actually helped me. And by the way, this false accusation is age old. You look at Joseph in the Old Testament. Joseph was a righteous man. His brothers sold him into slavery. He was down in Egypt. And Potiphar's wife tried to say, Joseph, please sleep with me. Please, I want you so badly. And Joseph refused to go with her. And as a result of him refusing to sleep with her, Potiphar's wife rewarded Joseph with a false accusation and got Joseph thrown into prison. You look at the story of Jezebel and Ahab is having a little pouty because one of the people in his kingdom has some land and Ahab wants the land. And Jezebel comes up with a whole way to falsely accuse this man so that King Ahab can take the land. False accusations are age old. False accusations exist in our society. However, in our society, we don't punish false accusations. False accusations, that's just part of a free society. If you have to defend yourself, that's part of what you have to do to live free in this free society. By the way, I informed my work of everything that was going on. My work informed me, because of the nature of my job, that I had no choice but to defend myself. Because had I been found guilty, I would have lost my job. I would have lost all insurance. I could have been thrown into prison. And by the way, I had a detective who was picking up the case, trying to charge me with a felony. After about a minute of talking with me, he realized it was nuts, and then he talked with my wife afterwards, who was kept in a separate room, and he knew the whole thing when this was just garbage. He even told me that at the beginning. But nevertheless, he wanted to collect some money for the city. So he decided to throw me into misdemeanor court so that I would pay a fine, which I refused to do. Officer Quezada of the Dallas Police Department, Detective Officer Quezada, thank you. And then also there are church members. So there is a church in Rockwall, Texas, in which I was told by the pastor of Ridgeview Church, Pastor Matt Geisinger, that I was pulling my ex-wife around by the hair. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but he knew that that was the case, because somehow, evidently, I was accused of this. I guess I have really no clue. I don't even know what he's talking about. But false accusations destroy characters. False accusations get people thrown into prison. False accusations cause people, innocent people, thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend themselves. And the false accuser gets away with it and doesn't even pay a price. So my solution is this: allow the false accusations to continue if they want to do that. But if the person making the false accusation is proven to be intentionally lying to a court, that person gets the exact same penalty that he or she was seeking to inflict upon another person. So if there is a woman accusing somebody of rape, and trying to get him locked up for 25 years because she is being vindictive and he is proven to be innocent of this. She pays his bills and she goes to jail and serves 25 years. That to me seems to be just. This whole case with Brett Kavanaugh, very suspicious in its time, and to say the least. Once again, if Brett Kavanaugh were an ardent supporter of abortion rights, there wouldn't even be a case against him right now. But because Brett Kavanaugh may overturn the sacred Roe versus Wade, which permits the killing of unborn children and would destroy an entire abortion industry, because of this, we need to find a way to stop this evil man. And the weapon of choice is false accusations. My wish is that we as society would start taking these false accusations seriously and considering those lodging the false accusations criminals, subject to the same punishments that they are seeking to inflict upon somebody else. If we start to do this, I would almost guarantee you false accusations as a weapon, as the silver bullet, as the new modus operandi of the leftists would cease, or at least would be curtailed in a hurry. Thank you.